We're continuing our message today in the series, Choose Your Hard with Physically Hard.
We're going to look at some of the disciplines we have used over the years to help us be strengthened men so we can better serve our families.
You're not going to want to miss this.
Welcome to the UPD podcast,
Designed to point men towards Jesus.
real life, real talk. Join us. I'm Andy Lamb.
I'm Johnny Hansen.
This is the UPD podcast. Carl. It's Carl.
All right.
Hey, Carl.
We'll give it to him. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. We are the Untrained Philosophical Discussionists. My name is Johnny Hansen.
My name is Andy. We also call ourselves UPD. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, find us online on social media. What's it called? Instagram, not Spectrum. Instagram.
Spectrum's the provider of the internet.
That is, man. Spectrum. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all the things. This is what happens when old guys have social media. We don't even know what to call it anymore, but our goal of this is we got about 100 years of experience between the two of us, lots and lots and lots of bad decisions, and our hope is that we can spare you some of the bad decisions that we've made to help you kind of steer you around them.
Yeah, if you have a more pressing thing you want to get to us, you can email us at updpodcast@gmail.com. And as always, we encourage you that if you have somebody you know that is struggling with something that we've handled in our catalog here, we are asking you just to pass that along to them with your goodwill.
Yeah, it's the updpodcast@gmail.com too. I know I've had time people say, hey, I would really love it if you would talk about this. And so remember, we are about 3 to 4 weeks out from when we record these. So if you do ever send in questions and you want them answered, there'll be a little bit of delay there. But, we want this podcast not to be just for us. We want this to be something that's effective for people. And so if there's something you were going through, we're untrained, but we will just try to philosophize with you about how we see life. We're going to interject the Bible as much as we can. We believe the Bible is the greatest tool that we have to help us to guide people, to bring happiness, to bring health, to bring joy and peace in a fallen and broken world.
So how's your week going, pal?
It's going, man. We decided not to move, decided to pull the house off the market.
Sure did.
It was a test, I believe, a test of obedience. It's kind of like a grieving moment, too, when you kind of get excited about something, you get your hopes up for something.
Why don't you unpack it a little bit more, because it's more than that.
Yeah, I mean...
If I can kind of say it from maybe you can correct me, but here's what I've received from my end of things about it, is that over these months that you've been, stuck doing these repairs here and there, a heaviness settled on this whole thing where it was being forced, and you kept feeling that way, and you kept describing it as such, and not specifically that, but in a way inferring that, God, I just don't want to be pushing this thing, but I really want this next thing, I just want this new place, and boy, we're going to have this there, we're going to have the new studio there, and it's going to be all these amazing things, but this road just wasn't being paved in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like to me that it would have been a forced move instead of organically kind of falling into place. It's like certain things would seem to align and then immediately be taken away in another way.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like every window that was opened, a window was closed. A door is open, a door is closed. And it would follow within such a short period of time that it was like you had to recognize it for what it was, yeah?
If I'm really intellectually honest, I recognized it very, very early.
Sure.
When we first went on market, I mean, the very first people that came through our house put an offer on our house for full price.
Right.
And we really felt like God's hand is on this. And then as we moved through it, they did an inspection. There was a bunch of stuff, nothing crazy, but they backed out. There were things that needed to be done. And then we got those fixed, and then my septic tank went, collapsed.
Anybody that's ever owned a house realizes that there's things that need to be fixed.
It's a 30-year-old house, right? It's a 30-year-old house. And my septic tank collapsed. And it was like, and when that happened, I really felt at that moment, God was like, wait.
Okay.
But I kept pushing because I wanted what I wanted. And, then we had to start making some compromises. And I should have known when I was trying to compromise things that I was trying to force something that God didn't want. God allowed me to work through that. And then he would
keep bringing up these little, hopeful things would come up, too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that there wasn't the waves of turmoil and the waves of anticipation and good. It was this steady up and down thing that I watched you go through, what, since March?
That's when we first started talking through it.
Sure.
Then we really started getting
We're
serious.
in December, sir.
We started getting serious in May.
Okay.
Started looking, and then into August, started getting the house ready, and beginning of September, we went, they went live online. They put it on the market, and just showing after showing, an open house, and moving my father-in-law in and out, and it was a lot. And then it came to the very end, and thankfully, I was trying to force it, but thankfully, God just kept slamming that door.
Well, and your wife,
closed.
too, played an important role.
Wife played the most important role.
Okay.
So we had an opportunity. We were now on a third offer.
Yeah.
But we were going to have to
make a lot of exceptions.
We would have to do a bridge loan.
You don't even have to get specific on it.
We were going to have
it
to
was
do
just a nightmare.
It was going to be a nightmare of things. And I was on the phone with a realtor, and I got off the phone.
And it was a lot of risk.
A ton of risk.
Yeah.
There was a lot of numbers in that risk. And I remember I walked into my bedroom, and my wife was crying, and I was like, what's going on? And she's just like, God said no, and we have to obey. And I was like, there it is. There it is.
I remember you called me later on that evening. You said, hey, man, we're not going to do it. And I said, why? And that's exactly what you said. I said, well, that is the answer.
It is the answer.
Yeah.
It is this is part of the one of the fruits of having a godly wife.
And that sucks.
It does.
You wanted that.
I did. I asked.
As your friend and as the guy who would have got to have a cool new studio.
Yeah.
I wanted it for you.
Plus, I was 13 minutes from you.
All of it was seemingly perfect.
It was.
But it wasn't perfect.
There's two things that I have learned through this that have kind of been valuable lessons to me. I have this older guy that I lean on that was praying for me, and I was mad. I'll just be honest. I was mad.
How could you not be?
Not like mad. I was more frustrated than anything else.
Sure.
But I asked him, I said, can I be frustrated at God about this? And he goes, can I ask you a question? And he goes, did your dad, when you were younger, ever say, I want you to do this thing? And when you asked him why, he said, because I said so. I was like, yeah. And he said, how did you feel at the time? I was like, I didn't like it. But I said, on the back end of it, what did you see? My dad was right. And he goes, there you go. That's what you're dealing with right now. And so it was more of like a grieving period because I really was like, there was a lot of benefits on the backside of it, but maybe just as one of these moments where God is just like, this has become an idol and I want you to surrender that to me.
Okay.
And I think on this side of things, I think that's what it had become. It become an idol.
Do you think something else will come along in the future?
My wife had a dream.
Okay. Oh, wow. I didn't hear this part. Go ahead.
This is new.
This is like MLK. Just kidding. Go ahead.
Not.
She said it in a Southern accent. Just stop it.
Sometimes you're just
too much.
That's too much. Turn them down. Please don't ever turn them down. She had a dream that God had just basically showed her that because you have obeyed, I'm going to present to you guys something that you'll just be able to choose what you want.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's always, that sounds a bit prosperity, and we try to avoid that at all costs.
At all costs.
Andy didn't say he turned down a shed in the middle of nowhere for a mansion somewhere. What it sounds like is that God's got something else.
It does.
It's going to be whatever it's going to be, and you'll know it when you see it, yeah?
And yes,
I believe it might not be all the other stuff the other one was.
It might not be, but there's also something that I've learned about myself is when God asks me to do something, I need to listen the first time. Because I would have saved myself probably 2 months of struggle when I felt that very first time God was like, no, I should have just walked away. So I've really learned like a different level of communication with God just to be that he just wants my obedience. At the end of the day, we live in a great place and a great house.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we got this studio.
Yeah.
The studio's great.
First world problems, right?
For sure.
First world problems. So
thanks for unpacking that. I think everybody else has followed this since you started on this journey, and it was time to give everybody the resolution of it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. Couldn't agree more.
So we start the first thing we like to do after we kind of do our little catching up is we like to do a proverb. We found a proverb here today that fits with the title of today's episode, which is Physically Hard, and it's from the series Choose Your Hard. This is Proverbs 13:4, Would you like to read it?
A sluggard's appetite is never filled, but the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied.
Read that a second time, please.
A sluggard's appetite is never filled, but the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied. What I love about the book of Proverbs, and I think I say this every time we do this, whether you follow Jesus or not, you could read this as a wise saying.
Mm-hmm.
And if you live by this wise saying, whether you follow Jesus or not, it will do you well. A sluggard's what's a sluggard?
A sluggard is someone who desires the benefits of hard work without the effort it takes to get it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Say that again.
A sluggard is someone who desires the benefit of hard work without the effort it takes to get it. And another way of saying it is they choose idleness over diligence. Because you see the diligence as the contrast on
That's
the other
exactly
side.
right. That's
So they
exactly
choose
right.
idleness. Well, we've talked about idleness quite a bit on this podcast. Idleness is the devil's playground.
It is. I see this as a problem with younger generation too, because of social media and because of iPhone. Is we want it now. And Amazon. If I want something from Amazon, it can show up in my house within 4 hours. And if it doesn't get there in 4 hours, you're like, I got to wait till tomorrow for it. What's Amazon doing? And so we've created this society where we want instant gratification.
Can we also say that with that same social media, they see a presentation of something that's probably not real?
Yeah.
So there's comparisons made to age-appropriate peers who seem to have everything going. And you never, or maybe not never, but you rarely see what went in to present that image.
Yeah.
And the underlying truths behind the image, if there is any truth at all. Some of it can be completely fiction.
For sure it can.
There's plenty of musicians out there, and maybe not athletes, but certainly musicians who wear a bunch of diamond-encrusted chains and don't own them. There are countless celebrities who stand in front of private jets who don't ever ride on that private jet, just take a picture in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are young and impressionable and you maybe haven't had a lot of experience in life, you might think that that's what's happening for the people around you. And somehow your inability to have manifested that so far means that you're not enough.
That's good. I think the other piece that you could look at is that even if they did own all of it, like how miserable are they on the inside?
It's tough to say.
Right?
They might be great. Things might be great. We can't pretend to know. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to contrast that other side of the image. Again, we have no idea what's behind the image that they're putting out. And that's frequently the case with social media. If you are consuming it consistently, and then you're somehow contrasting your existence with it, your existence it's a false equivalent.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't have a camera on them 24 hours a day to watch everything they're doing. You're just seeing these highlight reels and they might be fictionalized highlight reels. It could also be fact.
Mm-hmm.
That is the case that happens sometimes. So what you can end up developing is this sluggard mentality, because you're like, what's the point? I've been working, I've been doing these things in my own existence, and I don't have whatever this person that I'm now seeing has. And you go, what's the point? And then you can become that because you just become so stagnant and frustrated with the world and frustrated with the lack of what you think are the results you deserve.
Right.
That you end up getting into that place of stagnation. And then finally you surrender to it and you become idle and you become the sluggard.
Well, we talked, I think the last one, maybe the one before that, where you talked about 36% of men deal with body shaming. We're going to kind of get into that part today.
Yeah.
But that's because with social media, I'm always constantly comparing myself of my goals of what I want to be or what I want to look like. And if I'm not willing to put in the work to get there, then it's easy to give up mentality. I think that that's why we talk about diligence.
Okay.
Right. I think that's the second piece of that verse becomes so important in that, is that the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied.
What's diligent then? I wrote that one down. Someone who's sharp, decisive, hardworking, and industrious.
Yeah, I just focused,
Sure.
just a focused person. But the piece that
Focus towards a goal.
Yeah, focus towards a goal, but I think the desirous piece is where everything gets off track and everything gets wonky because you set up unrealistic desires for
False
yourself.
paradigm.
You do. Also, you see somebody that, you look at them and like they became an overnight sensation, and you'll hear like Shane Gillis say this. He's like, I'm an overnight sensation that's been working at this for 15 years.
Right.
Right. And so you didn't see all the hard work that went into what they were doing to get to where they're at today. But because you have false expectations, you want it and you want it now.
Sure.
And then we become idle. And so that's where the diligent are fully satisfied. It's because we continue to pursue, we continue to work. We set right goals, but we set them in moderation, right? This is a tiered system anytime you set any goals. And which will go into our physical part about today is you're trying to get to maybe the way you want to look, maybe the way you want to feel. So let's set some correct expectations on how you're going to get there. There's no overnight successes made in any arena that you go into.
Yeah, fully satisfied I wrote as contentment that comes from hard work and perseverance, not just physically satisfied, but spiritually when you've learned and grown because of the diligence of overcoming the hard.
It's amazing how they all this series has been 4 parts, but all 4 pieces
play together.
They do.
When I, as we'll talk today with physically, as I continue to exert self-control over my body, it makes my emotions stronger because the production of the hormones inside of me can balance me out.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm feeling down, it's proven scientifically that if I go for a run, I release endorphins and can feel better by the end of that run.
Correct.
Secondarily, if I'm fortifying my body, I can go through harder things mentally. Because I've been through these hard things physically, it fortifies my mind, especially as you push further. My legs hurt when I did a leg workout, but I still went in the next time and did another leg workout when I didn't want to. That teaches your brain mentally how to be overcoming those things. And we're going to unpack a lot more of that here today.
I think as we talk about physically hard today, again, because we're untrained, I think the marketplace is flooded with workout and goals and discipline. And so although we will touch on some of that stuff today, if you're looking for a scientific breakdown,
this is not the place.
This is not the place.
No.
Follow Huberman, follow Peter Attia, some of those guys that are just understand plates, more dates. Those guys are brilliant guys, and they can tell you the exact sciences, everything. Our goal is we just want to tell you what we have done that has worked for us personally, and kind of how our day-to-day regimens go, because ultimately that plays into how we are able to be successful in other arenas of our life as well as we continue. It creates this discipline of work.
Plus, I don't think that I think we speak to why God would want us to have these things. And I don't think that's spoken about frequently in those other channels that you're speaking of. And I know that Huberman's a Christian guy, so that's fine. I don't know how much of that he brings in because I don't consistently, absorb his stuff. When he does talk on Christ, I do like to listen. He's a very intelligent guy. So we always try to bring that aspect of it. What's God think of these? What does the Bible say about physically fit? What does God say about mentally fit and emotionally fit? That's why that's that separate element that I think we bring. But also, I think we're just 2 regular guys. We're just starting from the bottom with this thing. We don't have some outsized degree in something, so we don't have that agenda. We're not pushing any books that we've written. We're just 2 regular guys that actually started pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
And we've spoken about that frequently here. And we've been able to build up from there. And I think there's a lot of questions from those who have hit a bottom or recently hit a bottom or at some point in time did on how they build back up from there. Because that's a very difficult thing to do. It's hard. It's hard to stay down there, but it's also hard to build back up and build out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's joyful on this side. And that's the overabundance of joy that we have, and we've spoken about that before, is why we want to share this. And that is a separate element too. It's like a lot of these other people have continued to have success in one form or another, and we're directing towards them, and you should if you want the scientific stuff, because they studied all that.
Yeah.
But if you want a layman from 2 regular guys who do this thing every single day, then we're the channel for you.
Yeah. 1 Timothy 4:18 says, physical training is of some value. So there's something there that there is value to it. God does see it as valuable, but it also says godliness has value for all things.
Hmm.
And so that's why our podcast is always going to be focused on, it's going to be God-centered all the time, because that has value for all things. We're able to take godliness and we're able to implement it into, as we talk about spiritual, mental, emotional, and now the physical dynamic of life. So God does see that as a value to us. The book of Proverbs is littered with these verses like we just read about not being lazy, about not being idle. And that's because, if you go back to when Bible times were written, everybody was blue collar.
Yeah,
There was a very small number of people that were wealthy. So the vast
sure.
majority of people were hardworking, family-oriented people.
It was if you didn't produce the crops and the goods that you need for the year, you did not survive and your family didn't survive. So you lived hand to mouth all the time. There wasn't big reserves. They don't live in the kind of society we do now with grocery stores and all this. This was very much your daily output meant survival.
That's it.
Yeah. I found this first one, and this is kind of where I thought it started my interest in this subject. 1 Corinthians 9:24 and 27. Do you know that in a race, all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. There's a couple of pieces there. Self-control and discipline my body and keep it under control. And I think that's the element that really speaks to me when it comes to physically fit. It's part of the overall practicing self-control. I have to get up every day. It's a discipline to do that. It takes extra time to go to the gym and go work out. It takes extra money to buy food that's good for my body. It takes extra time to cook it at the house because, for the most part, if you want to be on a healthy diet, most of your meals will be made at home.
Mm-hmm.
Furthermore, I was just speaking about this, but as I continue to discipline my body, it disciplines my mind, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
As I discipline my mentality and I focus on things, it does help me in those times where I ran a 5K this last year. I know. I'm not a runner. I don't like to run. I loathe running. Let's put it that way.
You and me both.
But my brother-in-law said he was going to do it. And I said, oh, cool. When is this thing? And he said, it's like 6 weeks or 2 months from now. I said, great. And I went about over that course of time, not effectively, learning to run that distance. And what's funny is even as a guy who's 45 and has been working out for quite a long time, I went about running the first time for almost the full 5K. And I blew out my calves. And my wife knows the term. I should have looked it up. I didn't. When you totally atrophy a muscle group,
Mm-hmm.
which I did, and it then swelled up behind the muscles. Like I built up a bunch of water on the tops of my calves, and it made it hard to walk for like 7 days. I went to the doctor because I thought like, oh my God, I must have tore some stuff inside. And the doctor's like, what did you do? I went about explaining it, and they said the same term my wife had said. They don't give you anything then. They just go, this is just going to have to come down, and it takes time. My favorite answer to everything,
Right.
time. So for the next 2 weeks, I couldn't run at all. And what I did over those next 2 weeks so that I didn't continue to injure myself was I watched running videos on YouTube. And I just watched how these various runners went about running and like building up towards runs. And it turns out I did a lot of running because anything I've done in sport was not marathon practice. It was short burst practice. I played hockey when I was
Mm-hmm.
young. I've done jujitsu and Muay Thai as an adult. All of that's kind of on the front of your feet so that you can move quickly. Same thing with hockey. It's kind of like you tilt your feet sideways and you're pushing, but it's fast push. So you're pushing up kind of even almost with the tips of your toes in a way. You'll see it if you ever watch people skate. When you run, that's not how you run. You should have the contact of your heel and it should roll like this to the front and move. And you should always be impacting that heel as you move, is what these runners were saying. It meant I had to totally mentally and physically change what I was doing. I had to mentally concentrate on it when I was finally able to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But it took that mentality of going, this leg thing hurt for a while. I'm telling you, I could not walk well for days. And like every day I couldn't, it like the scary thing is it hurt to stretch my leg out straight. So like to even have my leg straight was very painful, but I had to do it because those muscles wanted to contract in and would tighten and over tighten if I didn't continue to stretch them. So all day for 2 days, it was me just kind of painfully stretching my legs out. Yes. And icing the backs of my knees because that's where that water was behind the knee there, right above the calf muscle.
Jeez, man.
It was brutal. But I did it because, A, what else am I going to do? But B, I wanted to still run this 5K. I said I was going to do it.
Yeah, you made a decision, so you're going to do it.
Whenever yes. And that's one thing you and I chat about quite a bit. If I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Unless there's an absolute reason by that time that I couldn't have. But that wasn't the case. When I went to the doctor, they said it'll be fine in X amount of days. It's going to suck until then. And then you get back on it and you do it.
There's this old saying that says plans change, decisions don't.
Oh, great. I love that.
Right. So you had made the decision that you were going to do this. Just a plan of how you were going to do it had to change some.
That is exactly right.
Pastor Rick, you might remember this. He had something called rhabdo. So rhabdo is basically he had not worked out for a long time and he wanted to get back into the gym again. And because he just has this crazy mindset that he's just not going to be outdone by anybody.
Yeah.
He just way overdid it, and it has something to do with proteins building up in your legs.
Yeah.
And then your body doesn't have any way to flush them out.
Yeah.
And it can just destroy. It kills a lot of people. He ended up in the hospital for days with this. That it almost killed him.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. So there is something to when you get into it, like you just started describing what you had to do. You actually had to learn what the right form is. So there's a part of me that I'm just going to grin and bear it, and I'm going to push through it. But there's also a secondary part of it where I want to do this regiment the right way, and I want to learn how to do it the right way if I'm going to do it for long term, because it doesn't do you any good just to be like, I can just go do this and
grind my way through it and damage my body.
Yeah, that doesn't help out either.
Well, I wouldn't have been able to do the 5K. If I would have went right back into, 2 weeks later when my legs were okay to do it, went and just jumped back up the exact same way I did previously, I would have just re-damaged those legs.
Mm-hmm.
Because they'd just been off for 2 weeks, so they'd atrophied again. They were nothing again. I would have had to do that, and I would have just been hurt again. It's foolishness.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, you would have just not done it. You've been like, I'm not going to keep doing this to my body over and over again.
And isn't that the case for so frequently and this is really where I think the mentality hits the physical, is I'm here to tell you that when I first started working out, it hurt my body. It didn't damage me like this run did. This is why I'm contrasting the two. Mm-hmm. I did damage to the backs of my calves, and it required a time period in between for healing before I could go back to working out. But I'm here to tell you that when I first started working out, I showed you some pictures of me from the rock and roll days. I was a very skinny skeleton man. Not a lot of muscle tone there, bud.
Mm-mm.
I never worked out. That's why. I drank a lot, and I probably had like muscle depletion complete.
How much were you eating at that point?
Not much either.
Right.
So when I first started working out, muscles became sore, like pretty painfully sore. You wake up that first day after you've really worked out with somebody, or you've worked out, period, and like, let's say you work out your legs, man, your legs are going to be sore. And they're going to require a certain amount of like stretching, and you're going to go, gosh, this is uncomfortable. And boy, lifting my leg up into my truck, oh, my legs hurt. Jeez.
Sitting down to go to the bathroom.
I got to sit down and like turn over to oh my gosh, what is this? And there's that point where so many people go, why do you even do this? And they stop.
Mm-hmm.
Man, if I would have stopped, I'd still be that skin and bones little guy. And I think actually worse than that, because I do think that when I first started running, my legs hurt. And then when I started lifting weights, my arms and my back hurt, my chest hurt. And when I started doing some of the other stuff, my shoulders hurt. And like really getting after it means there's going to be growing pains because those muscles are growing. It's tiny little microfiber breaks in the muscle that then get backfilled with the stuff you put in your body there afterwards. Yeah?
That's correct. That's just the science of it, right?
Okay. Those little painful tears hurt. They're tears in the muscle, but they're good because they create muscle growth. That's how you grow more muscles, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And that takes time. Once again, my favorite thing.
That's
time.
the piece of it, man. That's the part that nobody wants to deal with, because the mentality of this is, okay, so I'm going to go to bed tonight, and then tomorrow I'm going to go wake up early or whenever you go work out. And I'm going to punish my body, and I'm just going to be hurting. And then I have to eat something good in order to backfill, like we were talking about, in order for me to not waste the work that I just did. And then you want me to do that again tomorrow. What I think you said was really important, that people understand the difference between an injury and soreness. These are two different things. We also want to make it real clear, like when we talk about physically hard and we're working out, maybe the gym's not for you. Like maybe you going to the gym. I have a whole
list of things that are other options.
Maybe, the idea of CrossFit, maybe that's not for you. Maybe you are a runner. Like there's a lot of science about the benefits of knowing what your VO2 max is, right? Maybe you're a basketball player, whatever it is. Like we're not just talking about going to the gym. This isn't like some bro podcast where it's like, what are your gains? Man, that's not what we're trying to do here. We're just saying sometimes it's just you need to get up off your butt and go physically do something. And that's going to take a shift in your mindset. It does take discipline. There's a reason why it's called discipline. It's because it is a hard thing. But the purpose of discipline is I'm going to do something hard now to reap the rewards of it later.
I'm disciplining my body to keep it under control.
I like that part.
That's what Paul says.
Keep it under control.
It's so smart. It's all part of controlling this inner old self that's the sinful self of this world. If I can control my body and I can control my mind, I can control my sin in whatever fashion that looks like with God's help, obviously.
Yeah.
It's the only way I even know that I'm sinning is with God's help. But as I continue to take control of my body, I then control my mind and vice versa. That's that component. And it's
because how much of working out is a work on it's more work on my brain than it is my body.
I think it's maybe 50-50. I don't even know. It's some days it's less than that. Some days I really want to be there. And I'm excited to go. I'm fired up. I get there. It's fun. Those endorphins hit. It's even funner. I'm kicking butt. I leave there. I feel great.
That's the part of it that's the most important, is when you walk out of there, you feel a sense of accomplishment.
Sometimes I don't want to go there. It's a real drag while I'm trying to force myself through it, and I leave and feel great. Other times, I don't want to go there. I grind it out and I leave there feeling like, whoa, God, that sucked. I'm just trying to be honest here. But that's the case. But you notice in all three of those, I went.
You went.
And I've done that this isn't something I started doing yesterday or a week ago or a month ago. I've been doing this for 16 years, 15 years, whatever it's been, whenever I started at the Spirit of Life. And I started talking about that, and I'll kind of just encapsulate in this little thing here, which is I was very sick, and a smart guy said to me, you need to have some sugar in your body. That's going to help balance things out because alcohol's a sugar, and you've been consuming it like crazy forever. So your body's not just alcohol depleted, but it's sugar depleted, and you need a higher sense of sugar for a while, and then we'll taper you off of that too. But it's going to help at least somewhat, just a little bit, to take away some of those effects of the alcohol withdrawals.
Interesting.
Yeah. But secondarily, you need to start just doing some sort, because I wasn't sleeping. And he's like, you need to start wearing your body out somehow too. This like creeping around and just sitting around isn't going to do it. You need to start working out and it will help you. It'll wear out some of this other stuff inside you. You'll find you start sleeping. Now, again, coming off of drugs, coming off alcohol, that's hard. And it still just takes time, man. But he was right. And it was also part of, he didn't say this, but this is what we are saying. This is what I'm saying. This is my biggest point today I'm going to make, is that it helped my mentality. To get out in the morning time before all the other guys were outside, I would just do calisthenics because there was a workout place in the back, but I didn't have any experience with that. I'd never really lifted weights. And these guys were like prison weightlifting guys. So they're all doing like skull crushers and stuff. And I'm like, I don't even know any of that stuff. I'm just going to stay. And my arms are as thin as my pinky finger. I ain't doing none of that. I'm just going to, and I would just run in place and I would do push-ups and I would do body squats. And for anybody that doesn't know, body squats just, you don't have any weight on you at all. You just squat down like you're going to sit in a chair. You kind of poke your butt out like you're going to sit down, and then you stand right back up. And you just do that again. You sit back down like you're going to sit on an invisible chair, and you stand right back up. And I would do 100 of those a day. I would run for, I would set it for, I wanted to say, I wasn't exactly certain. It was somewhere between 10 and 15 minutes. Just running in place. I don't remember specifically. But I would do 100 body squats. And I wouldn't do them all at one time. That's absurd. I would do 100 in a day, and I'd count them off in sets of 10 all throughout the day because it was painful. And especially the next day, it was painful. And the third day, it was painful. And the fourth day, by about the 8th day, it wasn't as painful anymore. And I was consuming the right things and drinking water, hydration. And other guys started taking notice of it too. And started being like, do you feel, it's weird. You run in place for a while, bro. Like, what's up with that? And then I started doing jumping jacks instead because I admitted to myself it probably looked odd. But they wouldn't let, we had to stay on this property for the first 2 weeks you're there.
Yeah.
You can't go leaving this property and go for a run outside of it. They didn't care for that. You might be running down the block to go get some drugs and then bring them back. So no, they said you just stay within these confines. So I started doing jumping jacks, and then I'd do the push-ups. I added those in probably week 2 with the body squats. And that's what I did for weeks, maybe even a month, because nobody wanted to hang out with me. I said that before. I was just kind of this lone wolf in this joint because everybody else was prison guys.
Yeah.
And then one guy finally said, hey, man, why don't you work out back in the thing? And I was like, I really don't know what I'm doing. He's like, all right, meet me out there tomorrow. And I did. This dude, JT, I've told you about him before. And I started working out with him. I started figuring out just a little bit. Some other dude, Danny, came along, and he got out of there about the same time I did. We started working out at a gym down the way, and I've worked out ever since. And it was nice to have somebody to work out with initially, some guys that had spent some time doing it. But like came a day where he couldn't make it. I had to find it inside myself just to go down there and just do what we had been doing. And that's what I did.
I think what you just explained for people is a simple way for anybody to start. Because I think the hardest thing for people, if you're listening right now going, I don't know what to do to start. Gym culture is a challenging culture because you walk in and there's a level of intimidation. You see all these fit people and you see all these machines, and it's a new language to you and you don't know. So I think if you're sitting here right now going, what do I do to start? I think the most important thing you do to start, number one, is just start something. I think doing just body weight exercises at home, get your body just in the fluid motion of just moving again, and take your time. I think a couple weeks of just doing a little bit of something every single day to get yourself into it is good. If you want a gym that you want to start going to that's not intimidating, go to Planet Fitness. It's $10 a month. Everybody in that gym is kind of in that same stage of life or stage of working out or expertise for the most part. They're just in there because they want to move. They're not in there because they're trying to be some meathead. And so that's a great place. They have machines in there. You can do a circuit. There's a picture on the machine that'll tell you exactly what to do. They have usually 10 to 15 of them that will hit every single body part, and in 30 minutes you can be out. 30 minutes a day, right? But it's a matter of you starting to do something. I started when I was 29 years old, and the reason why I started working out is it was out of insecurity. My wife and I were having it was the kind of the beginning stages of our marital problems.
Okay.
And I thought in my brain that if I just got swole, maybe if I got big, maybe then she would find an appreciation for me. And it was completely out of a wrong motive that I got started working out. But what I found for myself, it actually helped change my mental view.
Sure. It starts releasing some of those different hormones in your brain.
Yeah.
That can, if you're having some sort of self-doubt or you're having some sort of depressive initiative there, those hormones in your brain will kick in, and you will have these, just for the period of time that you're doing it, you start pushing up these positive hormones that will slightly shift that. And as you continue doing it, it shifts it more and more.
It does, man. I was working out at a YMCA, and there's a couple guys in there that, they just kind of took me underneath their wing and started teaching me.
Yeah.
I think that actually happens more often than anything else. I think the vast majority of people that you'll find at a gym
are pretty cool.
They are, and they would, if you ask questions, the vast majority of them will just they'll walk you through what to do and kind of help teach you. It's kind of like going to the shooting range. It's super intimidating going in there, but that culture of people there, they're most of them are teachers. They want people to know what they're doing and how to do it, especially if you're going to be in there shooting too. They want to make sure that
you know what the heck's going on. You're not putting anybody in danger.
That's exactly right. And not putting yourself in danger too.
Sure.
It's very easy for people to get hurt in a gym because they don't know what they're doing, and they want to go in there and they want to ego lift. And so the only person you are competing with when you go in there is yourself. That's it.
I think, backing up a step too, which is, if you haven't worked out in a long time and you're looking for a way to get started and you've put it off, the one thing that helps me kind of re-energize myself from time to time after all this time, sometimes I need a little booster. You get tired of doing the same exact workout every single time, and you need something else to kind of get you there. I'll buy a new pair of shoes. That's just me. But when I get a new pair of nice gym shoes, I want to go use them. And like that day, it's tough if I get them mid-afternoon because I'm a morning workout guy.
Yeah.
I can't wait till the next morning. I wake up, I get those. I'll try to get new socks too if I get new shoes. So now all of a sudden I got these new socks, feel good. These new shoes feel great. I go there and it just gets me in the door every single time.
Interesting.
So that might be something, or maybe there is something else for you. I think you said something else that's important though, and we always stress this piece, is get a little bit of a buy-in for yourself. Put a little something on the table. It's going to motivate you. It always does. And by the way, when you then go about achieving it, it feels better because you've actually put in something and you've bet on yourself. So when I buy those shoes and then I go work out the next day, I bet that I was going to go do it, and I bet on myself, and then I'm a winner.
Yeah.
I win on my own bet. And that little victory can carry you through a couple other victories. And you're not going to go buy a new pair of shoes weekly, but whatever gets you started down there, and then maybe you do go to one of those starter gyms. I do not go to any of the larger gyms anymore for the reasons we've stated in previous episodes. It has the feeling of a hookup culture. And I don't care for that. There's a lot of people nowadays with cameras out, videos, and women are, in my opinion, as a 45-year-old man who's married, inappropriately dressed frequently. And in fact, some of the men are even too. They'll take the shirts off and stuff. It's like, are we inside of a public building, goofball?
Right.
So that can be intimidating. And it can be just bizarro and
Gym culture is bizarro.
Sure.
Because it's all about self.
There's a ton of stuff online on YouTube as well that can just get you started. You can buy these little rubber cables for $22 on Amazon, and they come in the weights of 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50 pounds, and they've got little handles on them, and you can do 10 different exercises. It comes with a little exercise booklet, and that can get you started on these other little first starter exercises. By the way, again, been doing them this long. I have those at my house. I love using those rubber cables. They work excellent for just stimulating muscles that don't get activated when you're doing, single weight things.
Because of my younger years of powerlifting.
Sure.
I use them frequently for stretching, because on this side of things, I started when I was 29, I'm 47. So I've been hitting it hard for 18 years. And so there is some wear and tear, especially when it comes from my old way of training, that, shoulders just don't feel the same way they used to. Elbows, I look like I'm rollerblading when I'm in the gym these days, man. I want elbow braces and sometimes wrist, and I wear a belt and wrap my knees. And
I've worked out with you. You look like RoboCop.
I'm fine with it because I want longevity when I work out. So it's about being in control when I'm in there.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because why do I work out? Let's just unpack that for a second here. Why do I work out? Well, gosh, there's a bunch of different reasons. I would love when I retire to still be able to enjoy my life and be active in retirement.
Absolutely.
I've worked my entire life. When I was very young, I had different jobs helping my mom do things just to help put food in our bellies. You've watched some of the tapes when I have conversations with my mom. We're absurdly poor people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was always working to put stuff together too. And my mom was a hustler, so she taught us to hustle. And I've always worked, man. And I've always worked a lot, and 2 jobs here and this job and then that other job too to scratch it together. And finally, at this stage of my life, and it's been this for a while now, with being married, it's 2 people that are, our union has created good income, and we're saving wisely, and we're using our discretion and discernment to invest. And it is looking like there's a future where retirement exists for us.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being the case, man, all this work, bro, I want to enjoy this retirement. I want to go do fun stuff. I want to go see the things I've never seen. I want to do the things I haven't done. And I want to be, my wife also is 8 years younger than me.
So there's that.
So there's that piece too. I want to be everything I can be for her. Secondly, I want to be able to protect my family. That's very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
God gave me that position. He gave me these people to care for and to love on, but also to protect. And God forbid anything was ever to come into our sphere, and for some reason I wasn't able to do what was necessary in a moment physically to be able to stop a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why you said we go to the gun range. We go to the gun range. We
Mm-hmm.
take tactical training classes and stuff too. By the way, that's physical.
It is.
The first time I ever thought I could shoot, what a laughable experience that was, and humbling, sir.
Yeah, when you get around somebody that actually can.
Well,
I just
you
wanna-
have these
I wanna-
false expectations.
I want to hand them my gun and be like, here, you can just have this.
Yeah, pistol whip me with it, by the way.
Going with Kurt or Tim. Good Lord.
We know some phenomenal shooters, and we weren't. And still, really, I wouldn't say I'm a phenomenal shooter by any stretch of the imaginations, but I practice.
Mm-hmm.
I've put a range on my own house, at my own house, so that I can continue to practice on my own time.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's a component of physicality and mental, by the way. It is a physical thing that you're working on doing when you do any of the tactical training.
Yeah.
And again, it's because I want to be the best protector. I want to give my family and the people I care for the best opportunity if anything should ever go on. And again, the way to be able to achieve that is to be physically prepared.
Agreed.
If I'm a couch potato and I don't have any physicality to me, and any threat was to appear, boy, I'm going to sure have a hard time. And I'm going to be real bummed out when that thing happens and it hits my mind that I could have done something about this. Instead, I chose not to.
Agreed.
And that's one of the little things that kind of gets you up in the morning too. If that maybe can motivate you.
Well, you said a moment ago, you start thinking about retirement. So I'm 47. I'm trying to think, all right, 15 years from now, if I want to retire, can I? And if so, what does that look like for me? And one of the biggest indicators they look at for people for longevity is muscle density and bone density, right?
Oh yeah,
Right.
gosh, that's
so,
right.
So muscle density
Great
is
point.
the big indicator that you're going to have the potential to live a longer time. Plus, it reduces heart issues, type 2 diabetes, a lot of cancers.
Sure.
So a lot of if I want to have a quality life as I retire as well too. So the work that I'm putting in today is to help make sure potentially that when I go to retirement that I'll have potentially a better outcome in my retirement as well.
Why does he say potentially? It's because we try to live out God willing.
Yeah.
We're called biblically to hope for the best and to only live in today. You know the one I'm thinking of?
I'm pulling it up now.
Because the point is if I'm to start declaring all these potential outcomes of the future, I'm not living in the reality that at any moment this life could be over. And that's ultimately one of the big pushes of our podcast too, is to let you know that we are eternal creatures. So even if my life ends today, I'm preparing myself today for the eternity. And again, even this physicality thing, this self-control that we speak of, is a way for me to discipline my body, my mind, and my spirit so that I can be in line better to fight off the enemy and put myself on the path of Christ.
That's right. James 4:13 and 14. Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes.
Bingo.
So when I say potentially, right?
That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying is I don't know what tomorrow brings. I don't know what God's plan is for my life. I know
Tragedy
that
befalls the rich and the poor equally.
it does. I mean, you hear this all the time. You'll hear like some guy just dropped dead of an aneurysm or heart attack or stroke, and they're like, God, that guy was the most fit guy. He worked out all the time. He ran all the time. He ate well. Genetics plays a huge part of human body. And then there's just, we live in this fallen, broken world. So there is no promise for tomorrow. All I know is that I've got today. And what am I going to do today to try to make tomorrow better? And that's how we live our lives. So that's why my alarm clock goes off at 4:45 every single morning. Do I want to do that? No. Is it better for me if I do? Absolutely. Because if I can do something hard when I first wake up, discipline-wise, then anything else I'm going to do throughout the day is just going to become easier. Now, there is a piece, the genetic piece, right? So as we get older,
So are you going where I think you're
I'm
going?
going to go where you think I'm going. I just wore a
Brilliant.
different.
I was just going to mention this too.
I just wore a different T-shirt to have this conversation.
Oh my gosh, what episode was that, Andy?
We lost it. We deleted
No, we
it.
did
You don't want to
not.
go back and watch that episode.
my
It's a terrible
goodness.
episode. It's awful.
Oh,
We
go ahead.
We had a conversation on the benefits of TRT, taking testosterone.
Testosterone replacement therapy is TRT.
And the shirt I was wearing was, and the way I was sitting, just
Yeah.
was not flattering at all. If you watched it, you'd be like, "You sure you're taking the T?" I'm on the
Fatty,
T.
fatty, bo batty, banana fan.
All of it. So we have to also, like, if I want to maximize the work that I'm doing, then yes, it's not just get up in the morning, go and work out. It is the food that I consume. It is the supplements that you take. It is the hormones that you deal with. There's a lot of facets to just working out. You don't need to get there tomorrow. There's this funny meme that went around. I saw it said, if you've been for the gym in the last 3 days and you haven't seen any gains, start taking steroids. That's kind of the mindset of people, though. It's like, I've came and did this thing twice or 3 times. And I don't see anything yet.
On the other side of it, at the age of 35 and beyond, you do start to, your body produces less. Not everybody. Again, genetically, things change for each person, and it happens at different times. But eventually, on any time scale, all men's body produces less testosterone. So, thankfully, because of science, they've developed a injectable testosterone that you can get from your doctor. And all you have to do is go speak with your doctor. They'll run some tests on you, and they'll say, here's where you're at, and here's where we can take you to. And then you can take that, and it'll supplement the loss. And then you can continue working out. What are some of those benefits? Do you remember some from our
For
list?
me, I mean, just for me, it's better sleep,
Yeah.
better mood,
Yes.
better drive,
Yes.
better libido,
Mm-hmm.
better recovery. I think recovery for me is the most important piece that
It's
I get,
absolutely
get
a
from
part.
it,
Yes.
right? So there's
But it also is muscle retention. You can build
for
bigger
sure,
muscles.
For sure it is. There's a lot of benefits to it. I mean, longevity wise, I mean, you take a look at a guy like RFK, man.
Looks great.
70 years old, takes
Your
his
dad.
shirt off. Look at my dad. My dad, 73 years old, and
Looks
takes his shirt off. You're
fantastic.
like, holy cow, I want to look like that at 50.
Yeah.
So he looks fantastic. And so there are benefits. There's a weird connotation that TRT is steroids. It's not. Stop being silly. Your body produces testosterone. You're deficient in it. If you were deficient in cortisol and the doctor was like, here, take this pill to bring your cortisol level to normal levels, you would do that. So let's not be silly about it.
And neither of us is trying to be a gargantuan human being. All we're trying to do is mitigate the loss of time in our bodies physically. That's the whole play there.
Right.
I'm just trying to, through science, sustain what God's given me for the longest period of time I can, so I can be the best I can be on any given day.
That's all, man.
And there are plenty of people that use them to become big, bulky hulks of things. Fine, that's what they're doing. That's not what we're here promoting today. Again, we're trying to promote sleep as a part of your physical health, because you should be getting, you said last time,
7 hours.
7 hours of sleep. And you should be working out in one form or another. I have a physical job. I have a painting company, It requires us to lift ladders, carry heavy paint, carry heavy supplies constantly. You're working your shoulders, your hands, your legs, you're bending down, you're standing up.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of things. But I don't just leave it at that because I need more than that. I want more than that. Again, I want to be a maximized individual.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires on the days that I do work, I don't get up extra early and then go hit the gym and burn myself out and then try to work all day. I did that when I was younger. I don't have the energy for it anymore. What I've started to do in this age is listen to my body.
That's a big part of it right there. That's just called wisdom.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
It's beneficial physically, but yes, it is wise as well. Unfortunately for me, I have this big, thick skull, and it takes me a long time to learn things. So it just took getting injured a whole bunch.
Yeah.
And finally, as injuries no longer heal quickly, they take longer than they used to.
That they do.
I've had to follow a different protocol. I've had to reset a protocol. And that protocol is to listen to my body. So if I do have the injury, let's say with the calves, and the doctor says, or even if I was to have looked it up and it says, give it 8 to 10 days, I'm going to give it that 8 to 10 days. And I'm just going to rest in the fact that I've put in the work for so many years in advance. And I'm going to continue to fortify my mind so that when the 13th day comes along or the 11th day, whatever it happens to be, I can then re-engage that mental part and go, you're going to go hit the gym today because your legs are better.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get back in there. And because I've consistently done that over the decades and plus, I'm able to re-engage that and get moving on it.
Yeah.
And it's something, it's a mental muscle in of itself. Not that there's such a thing, but
there's absolutely such a thing.
There is a mental part of your brain that turns over when you've consistently forced it to.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a growth that happens there. There's a discipline.
That's it.
And you re-engage that discipline. And you have to. And if you haven't done it, it's going to be hard. That's what we're here to tell you. But the hard that you're going to see in the future of your life, if you do not remain diligent in keeping a physical body, is going to be a shorter lifespan. When you hit your retirement, what is that going to look like? Will you not be able to go do all the things? Or will you maybe not even make it to retirement? If you just eat whatever you want and you do not work out at all, you do not keep any physicality to your body, you are destined to die early. The numbers state it. I'm not making this up.
That's just called science. Right?
It's going to happen.
Science.
And the life that you will live also will be a lesser life. Mm-hmm. And we've all seen, they have these shows on TV where they exploit people who have obesity and morbid obesity. I'm not even going to mention the shows because they're just baffling to me. But there's this exploitive nature, and then there's this other nature of it where they say, no, that's perfectly healthy. Listen, I'm not here to say that you have to look like me or Andy to be in physical shape. Again, Andy stated before that if you want to be a runner's going to have a different body than mine because they like to do that. And that's how their body's going to be probably more lathe, and they're going to
be thinner. They're going to be lighter.
Sure. And they're going to eat different things than I'm going to eat as well. All we're trying to emphasize here is that as part of this control, this self-control, this discipline that you're trying to live out to have a better existence here on this plane of existence, this physicality is an important component.
That's right.
That's being ignored by too many people.
That's exactly right.
Something like 60% of people are obese in the United States. It's just shy of that. What?
Well,
You see it everywhere.
Go to the airport.
You ain't got to go to the airport. Walk outside this building right now.
Yeah, go to the store.
And there's just...
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's an epidemic that we have. And, a big part of that is obviously the foods that we consume is the biggest part of it. Lifestyle changes. But, I do want to bring us back to something you were talking about, injury. I think this is the part that we have to, as we get older, man, I dealt with shoulder injury for long periods of my life from heavy lifting when I was younger. And so you do have to change what you're doing and how you are doing it. And there's a mind shift to being able to train your body to work differently. Or if I'm injured here, then I'm going to maybe work out something different. But there's also some tools that we have, even science now, like peptides. Like, I recently took that BP157 peptide, and my shoulder it's healed. Like there is some science out there today that we have of some.
We're not science deniers or something to that effect because we're Christians. I don't read anywhere in the Bible where God says you can't take an ibuprofen if you have a headache.
Right.
That is a different thing than the Bible we read. So
The Bible tells me to be sober-minded. The Bible talks a lot about pride, right? And I think that's one of the biggest things we have to be aware of when you are working out is the pride aspect of it.
sure.
Why am I doing what I'm doing? Now, do I take pride in what I'm doing? Yes. There's a difference
Well,
between
can I have satisfaction and achievement?
Yes,
Certainly.
absolutely. You need to have satisfaction and achievement, or why do anything?
Yes.
Right. So there's a difference between having pride in what you're doing and being prideful about what you are doing. Is the reason why I'm doing this so I can take my shirt off on the beach and have everybody walk up and tell me how good I look? Or is there a reason why I'm doing this so I can be effective and be the best person I can be for my family? Those are the differences you need to change in there. I will say, as you work out and as you're getting into workout, my early days of working out, one of the things that I like to do was I would journal what I'm doing and also take a lot of pictures.
Oh, smart.
Yeah, just because you see your body every single day. And
Yes.
so you see little teeny incremental
Or you might
things,
not-
or
might
might
not
see
at
anything at
all.
all. But, if you took a picture today of how you looked and you'd never worked out before,
Sure.
and you took one 30, 60, and 90 days, if you were consistent,
That's a great tip.
I mean, it's night and day how you look. Now, you haven't seen that because you've seen the long run, but if you were to show somebody the side-by-side pictures, you'd be fascinated by it.
I worked out with a friend of ours, and I'll leave him nameless right now. But it was last spring, and he worked out with me for probably 6 weeks. And in 6 weeks, I gave him the regimen I started on, which was, and I didn't work him to the bone to make him hurt the first time we worked out to just show him how hard I work out.
Yeah.
That's absurd. I took it easy. I took it easy for what would be for me, but I watched him and I challenged him to do what he would need to do. I was really working on his form, but getting him to do enough things. Mike says it like this when it comes to giving at the church. He says, walk up to where you're comfortable and take one step beyond. That's kind of what I do physically when I'm working with somebody to train them at all. I see them, I watch them, and I watch where they kind of want to quit, and I push them one bit further. And it's not so that they get hurt. It's just so that they know they can take that next step.
Yeah.
And that they'll be okay, actually, at the other side of it. And I'm there to make sure they're not getting injured. So if we're lifting something, I'm right there. My hands are right below the bar if they're lifting the bar or pushing the bar. If they're doing squats, I'm right there doing them with them. I'm showing them the movement of that exercise so that they are doing it properly. And then what I would do, so we'd work out on Monday, and then we get together again on Saturday. That's a big gap between. And I would say, you need to do 100 body squats a day, 100 push-ups a day. And you need to split those.
Doesn't need to be done all at once.
If you look at it on a 24 hours as your day, you got all the time in the world to do them. Do 10 an hour. And you go, I'm going to do more than that. I go, good. That's wise. Maybe do 50 in the morning and 50 at nighttime. And then when you come back in here, and that's 200 movements, though. That's, 100 push-ups and 100 body squats. Body weight squats, just your body. Again, that sitting on a chair, standing up. And he looked unbelievably different in those 6 weeks. Is that true or not?
Absolutely true.
I do not know what his diet was. I made some suggestions. I didn't follow up on him because in such a short period of time, and that's the thing, men, that's who normally we're talking to because we are two men. Women maybe seek a woman's advice on how you work out. I don't think this would be bad for you if you wanted to get started this way. Men, your body knows what it wants to do, and it's fantastic, and women will get frustrated with this. I know my wife certainly does. We can turn around. The male body is so ready to get back to work. It's so ready to start building muscle because that's what it was made for. God designed it that way. And you will have results so much faster than your spouse that she will go, what in the heck is going on? What are you doing? This is crazy. By the way, she likes it. Okay. You get the added benefit of honey likes you a little more. There's some sort of draw that's happening. And it's fast. And I don't think that's by coincidence.
Right.
I think God he always leaves these little rewards along the path of good. That just lets you know you're right where you're supposed to be.
Usually, though, when you start working out, like the food part just goes hand in hand with it. Like
you will start craving.
Yeah.
the things that are going to be healthy for your body, and you will crave less the things that aren't.
Yeah, because if I look at it, I'm like, if I'm going to put all this work in, this hard work and pain and that comes with it, then I might as well maximize that benefit. And I start seeing differences in my body. I start feeling differently all of a sudden. Like I get rid of the sugars, and that
Sure.
joint pain and that inflammation starts to go away, and my body's actually able to start doing just what you just said, what
Yes.
God designed it to do. And if we look back at the fall, what did God say to Adam? You're going to toil, you're going to work. So he created that body to go to work, because up until, not that long ago, where we have these sedentary jobs where people just get to sit around in an office and work on a computer all day long. And so we live in a different world. I have a sales job, right? I don't have a laborious job.
Right.
It's
important that you then find other time for physicality.
It is. I spend a lot of time sitting behind the wheel of a car, so I drive a lot. And
Sure.
so I do have somewhat of a sedentary job that I do. And so because of that, I have to be able to maximize my time throughout the day. And so this is why having margin is a really important part about your life, because, I hear very often from people, they tell me I don't have time, but that's such a foolish, that's not even reality that you don't have time. Anybody can make 30 minutes a day for anything you want. You have to be able to create margin in your life. And so if you don't know how to create margin, then what I would challenge you to do is take a sheet of paper, write down every hour throughout the day on that piece of paper, and then write on that piece of paper what you are doing during that time frame for that last hour, and track what you're doing.
There's always something you could cut out to make the 20 minutes we're asking of you per day.
That's it. You don't have to get up at 4:30 in the morning. You don't have to get up at 5 a.m. I just function better when I work out. When I get up in the morning, I work out early. I can't work out in the evening
It's
time.
the choice that we've made for our physicality. It doesn't have to be yours. I don't do what David Goggins or Jocko Willink does either.
God,
Those guys
no.
are amazing. I love what they're doing
They're
for
nuts.
themselves, but it's not for me.
Goggins is nuts.
I'm just doing what I'm doing today.
Yeah.
And I'm doing and again, listening to my body, but I've got 15, 16 years of doing this. And kind of learning through trial and error on my own account, and then working with someone like yourself from time to time, and kind of seeing what you're doing, and then you kind of grift some stuff off of me, and that's kind of what I've accumulated for my workout and the results. I like the results that I have. My wife appreciates them too. Now, let me say this is important, because you brought this up earlier and we haven't revisited it. What are you comparing yourself to?
That's good. Thank you for coming back to that.
Are you on social media looking at some celebrity who looks like they're cut from wood, and they're telling you that they're eating chicken and rice? They're lying. Well, they're professional liars. They are actors, for God's sakes. Be intelligent about this. Turn over that intelligent part of your brain and go, does this add up? It doesn't. These people are always on some sort of supplements that have gotten them to that level of perfection in body image. And now there's even things you can manipulate on the screen through CGI and stuff to make bodies look insane. Guys, don't compare yourself to that. Again, Andy gave you such a great way. You take a picture of yourself today, and then you take a picture at 30 days, and you put in the work in between. You're going to see such a massive difference. You'll be excited. And again, it's not just like you'll see it and you'll be excited. You're scientifically releasing new hormones in your brain that you probably haven't released in a while, which will give you these upticks of actually mood. You'll feel better. And it's so much more than that. Then your wife starts coming around and she's interested. God set up this internal reward system that's fantastic. But put the phone down, because if you're comparing yourself to how great somebody else looks in a movie, and you think you're ever going to get there, you're probably wrong. If it's
even if you
Hugh
do,
Jackman as the Wolverine,
you do get there, it's not sustainable. Like those people that get to those parts, like the movie 300. I'll give you a good example for that.
Yeah, Gerard Butler.
Right. If you look at that movie, he looks fantastic in that movie. Look at him today. Like, look at him at his next movie role. He didn't look anything like that.
I watched him speak to a movie he did recently, some bad cops movie. And he had to get this big bulk. And
Den of Thieves?
Den of Thieves. He begged the director.
The second one is coming out now.
I seen.
Can't wait.
Andy will give you a movie review.
Oh, so good. I love that movie.
He had to become very large in that because his character had some specific name that intuited that he was a large man, a strong man. He begged the director to change the name of the character because he didn't want to get big again. Why didn't he want to get big? Because it's hard work. even him taking steroids to get real big again, there has to be work put in. If you just take steroids and think you're going to become jacked, you're a fool. You're not going to be. In fact, you'll probably get very sick, and it'll damage your body internally because those steroids have to be utilized in muscle growth, or they'll be used in some other kind of growth. Isn't that about how it works?
It is.
So all of a sudden, you're going to have places growing that shouldn't be growing, and you can get sick and you can die from that.
Yep.
Like your heart, because your heart's still beating inside of you. So your heart can get big, and then you can die.
Well, so many of the bodybuilders out there that die today, it's because they have an enlarged heart. Right? That's exactly what's happening.
And again, that's an overabundance of a certain steroid. We're talking about something else when we talk about testosterone replacement therapy. So please look into these things yourselves. Again, untrained, we're not doctors. We're not telling you what you should do.
My doctor tells me what to do.
I go to my doctor and he says, this is where you're at, buddy. And then he'll say, go donate some blood if I'm too high.
He checks my blood twice a year, two times a year. I go get all my hormone levels checked. That's what I do. I believe in longevity. I believe in health. I believe the best way, I've said it before, documentation beats conversation. And so, so much of what we have sickness-wise in this world today can be mitigated if you find it early enough. And so, if you don't have a doctor, go get a doctor. If you're in your 40s and never had a colonoscopy, go get a colonoscopy.
Gosh,
start getting some of these things checked. This is why men die early, is because they get these sicknesses that if found early, they can fix them.
Yes.
But because they're scared of the doctor or they're scared of, whatever is going to happen there, they just push it off and then they wait till their body feels so horrible that they have to finally go in and it's too late.
UPD is here to, especially in this series, is to present you with the case that self-discipline and self-control are going to make you the best individual you can be, along with daily dedication to God. If you get anything from this whole series, I think I would like you to pick that piece up. 2 Peter 1:5-6 says this about self-control. For this very reason, make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue, and virtue with knowledge, knowledge with self-control, self-control with steadfast, and steadfast with godliness. I don't think he lists those in that order.
Read them. I want you to read them again.
For this very reason, make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue, and virtue with knowledge, knowledge with self-control, self-control with steadfast, and steadfast with godliness.
I find it's interesting that he uses the word supplement. I find that a real interesting word. I've never caught that word until you just said it
And
right
he's
now.
saying it. Why would he use supplement? I believe in reading it and thinking on it, dwelling on it, because there is something else you can be doing. You can have that idleness. He's saying supplement that idleness. He's saying fill in these places in your life where you've done these other things in the old self with these new things.
Also, I look at it as like, when I just think about the physical part about it, it's supplements. I'm filling in where I'm deficient in something else.
Great point too. Yes.
Right? Why do I take a supplement like creatine? Because I'm deficient in it, or I need. If I utilize this supplement, then I'm maximizing my growth.
If I take a multivitamin,
I'm supplementing what my food is not giving me.
That's it.
Right? And so when we read all that list of things, it's supplement. It's just either adding these in addition to what that is. So steadfastness and godliness, virtue. When
self-control,
man, that's, I think for me, is the most important one in all of that, is that self-control. And the reason why he's telling us to do that is when we can bring in all these different aspects into our life, we have toned it as physical, spiritual, mental, and emotional. Like if I can take these 4 aspects of my life and I can bring them together in harmony and I can see where they work together, I'm not going to do this perfectly.
No.
Right? But this is what's going to help me to do this faithfully. And
it's to maximize who I can be.
For everybody.
Or who you can be. That's exactly right. But that's the reason we're doing it. We put all these things at the feet of the cross, all of our insufficiencies, and God hands us back and says, you're free from these things. Now get about doing some things. And the best way for us to do it is to be knowledgeable. He's saying that. So I'm getting in his word, and I'm trying to figure out who he is and who he wants me to be.
Yeah.
Steadfast, self-control. It means getting out there and getting after it. It means being available to the people that need me to be available. When they're hurt, when they're down, when they're up, when they're my family, and when they're a stranger on the street. And then self-control and the steadfast. It's, I need to be ready in body and in mind for whatever action he's going to call upon me on this day or any day in the future. And all of that is going to combine to get you somewhere near the shadow of godliness.
Somewhere near it.
Only with that submission piece at the beginning. Again, you have to start there. God hears me in my dirty rags, as we said before. Here's me in these dirty rags. Christ comes in, gives us the coat of Christ. And now he's going to have some requirements for us, and he lays them out. And that's kind of what we're trying to unpack here in just a layman's version of things.
There's a reason why we started with spiritual.
Yes.
Like we started off the whole series with spiritual, and we end it with physical because of the four, it's probably the one that's, although it's of value, it's how it's going to change me, the mental and emotional part of the part that I need to be engaged with the most. Because the physical part, although it's a value, it's a simplistic, I can shut my brain off and just kind of go do this. And then throughout the rest of the day, and it's a small piece of my day, throughout the rest of the day, my mental awareness, my emotional awareness, my spiritual awareness, I'm going to be utilizing those all the rest of the day. Correct. And so I think that as you listen to this series, if you've been listening to all of them, that's the reason why we started there. We're finishing here. This has been a fun series, man.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. I'm glad that we laid them out this way. I think you should go out and get after it. If you're kind of going right now, or something about this physicality thing has tugged at you, go get after it. Go get after it today. Get after it tomorrow. Just go start. If you are not able to hit the gym, go for a longer walk than you would normally go on.
Good for you.
If you've gone for walks for a couple of weeks now, try getting it up into a trot or a jog. And if you've been doing that, try to put something heavy in front of you and pick it up and set it back down and pick it up and set it back down and do it 10, 15, 20, 100 times. Do those body squats, do those push-ups. If you've already been doing those things, get to the gym. It's time. But keep moving forward and progressing with yours. Our workouts have changed. We said that. And yours should too. I did jujitsu and Muay Thai and those things to kind of re-spice up my life in a time where all the gym stuff just wasn't kind of engaging that part of my brain. I didn't even get into that today because I don't think it plays into this greater overall purpose of this. So you might have to do that if that's where you're at. You've been to the gym for a while. Maybe there's some other thing, some other sort of physicality you haven't tried before that you've always had an interest in, and you've kind of dwindled in this space or found a plateau. Do one of those things. Be challenging yourself. And it's just the same way you challenge yourself mentally and you challenge yourself in these other physical things. And
watch out for excuses. It's easy to make them.
Oh gosh, you can live in them your whole life.
You can. It's the reason why I set my alarm off every morning is because, and why I get up no matter how I'm feeling is because if I can make it the excuse to not to go today, I can make the excuse not to go tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And then all of a sudden, you can start
making excuses for a lot of things.
Right. And so I said earlier, plans change, decisions don't. I'm going to be prepared to live a disciplined life. And that means in all walks of things. And so you have to figure out what you want. You have to figure out what your goals are. You have to figure out what your desires are. Once you figure that piece out, then it's implementing a plan to get you there. Be patient, but be disciplined.
Yeah. So we're turning the corner here. We're going to start a new series. This is a series we're both very excited about. We've been talking about for 4 or 5 months now. We have it written on the whiteboard, and it's about fatherhood. It's going to have a few different components that we're not going to get into yet. We are both fathers. We're both, in these ways, interesting fathers with multifaceted kind of fathers. I'm a stepson and a stepfather. You are an adoptive father. These are things we intend to get into. We also have birth children. So we have these different complex relationships inside of our own households that we intend to unpack.
Now I'm a grandfather.
And you're a grandfather too. So we intend to discuss kind of what those things look like. The way we were, who we get to be today, how we got to get to that place, the time it took to get there. We're going to unpack some serious issues for men, and I think women can really get a lot out of it too.
There's different stages of fatherhood. There's me being a father when my kids are babies and me being
Sure.
father, and my kids are teenagers, and now my kids are adults, and I have to parent them a different way now. And so it's learning how to be a good father in each of those stages. Unfortunately, I screwed up a decade of my kids' lives being a terrible father, doing a lot of wretched things and making a lot of mistakes. And I know Johnny has the same life. If there's anything that we can do to help you understand what you're missing out on choosing something else, hopefully we can steer you away from that.
Yeah. So we'll be doing that here in the coming next series. But for today, we thank you so much for joining us, and we just want to pray that you have a deep and a fulfilling relationship with Jesus, and that he blesses you all the days of your life.
And all God's people said.
He said, amen.
They sure did, brother. Good to talk to you today, man.
Have a great week, pal.
You too.